First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the founding partner of this conference, which is the San Jose State University, and thank you for hosting us. And thank you for coming to my presentation, Finding the Heart of Library Service. I'm really happy that you're here. I appreciate you joining me today. I'm going to talk a little bit about my research, probably just scratch the surface. So I'm hoping that if you're curious about something, you'll check out our website. You can see it there at the bottom, rurallibraries.org. And I will be showing that link at different points throughout the presentation. And also, if you have questions at the end, you can write that in the chat and I will answer them at the end. I am not going to monitor the chat as I present because I'm a little nervous and I don't think I can do those two things at one time. So if you would bear with me and hold on to your questions until the end, that would be great. And if you have video that's playing, and I see somebody does, make sure that you turn off your video because we don't have enough bandwidth to accommodate everybody showing their video. Does that make sense? Okay, I have no idea because I'm not monitoring the chat. Anyway, I'm Hope Decker. I'm really happy you're here. I work for the Pioneer Library System. It is a consortium that serves 42 mostly small rural libraries in upstate New York. All of our libraries are independent and basically our job is to help our libraries be awesome, be their awesome selves. And before that, I was the director of a small library for almost 10 years. I am also a researcher, which thrills me because this project is so near and dear to my heart. The project's name is Rural Library Service and Social Wellbeing. It's a 3-year project funded by the IMLS. And we went into 8 case study communities, spent 2 to 4 days in each community interviewing community members. And let me tell you, I hold these people in my heart. I carry their stories, their hopes for their community, their sense of home, all of those things I bring with me still today and use within the work that I do with our member libraries. I was fortunate to go to 4 of these communities. I went to the Northeast. By the way, we divided the country into the 4 census regions and chose 2 libraries from each census region with the help of an advisory board of diverse people from across the country. I went to Vermont, New York, Iowa, Wisconsin. And again, if you want to find out more information, go to rurallibraries.org. On the left there, you'll see the dimensions of social well-being that we use to inform our research. Foundational to this research is those 4 dimensions. We relied heavily on strengthening networks and sparking change report for these dimensions. And as we came back home and listened to the transcript, listened to the interviews, read the transcripts, edited them, we began to see some of these words on the left, or on the right, sorry, emerge. Things like knowledge and discovery, which you would expect to find at a library, where people are always learning and growing, going to programs, taking out books. We also found some really important things like people's voice, political power, or having the ability to affect change in their community, shared identity, a sense of being supported and contributing to their community infrastructure, things like roads not being passable in the winter, or the technology, internet, computers, feeling seen and known. All of these things we started to see emerge as we were going through the research. Time after time, I would hear people talk about these things. In every community, we would find these expressed in different ways. So we began to see some trends and some pathways emerge, and every single one of our 8 communities had these pathways, but they are expressed in different ways, which I think is super interesting. And again, all of the resources as they emerge can be found on rurallibraries.org. Okay, that's the last time I'm going to mention the website. But we are also looking for beta testers to test the resources that we're developing. We're in our beginning stages of sharing the information, and we would love for public libraries to sign up to be a beta tester. So you can go to the website, you know by now what it's called, rurallibraries.org, and sign up. Thanks. So I'd like to introduce you to Sarah. She's from Marshfield, Vermont, and Sarah is on the mountain bike trail committee, building mountain bike trails. And this topic tends to be a divisive, polarizing issue in her community. And she felt a sense of disconnect. People were kind of unfriendly to her. She felt this kind of yucky, people don't like her kind of feeling because of this issue that was important to her. However, as she went to the library and interacted with people on the other side of the issue, they began to see that she's a person just like they are. She has wants, needs, interests in her community just like they do. And some of the walls started to come down, and across differences, there was a pathway to belonging that was built in the Marshfield Library, which is called the Jaquith Public Library, by the way. Pathways to delight. Libraries offer so many opportunities to learn and discover and find delight. When I went to Sainer, Wisconsin, the Plum Lake Library had many people that told me the staff is so helpful. They can answer all my questions. If they don't know the answer, they find it. That's what we do in libraries. I found this library to just have reference down pat, but they did it in such a way that you felt cared for. I found this at the end of my interviews. I was tired. I was worn out. I had spent almost 2 weeks away from my home, and I just wanted to go to the woods. I wanted to hike and rejuvenate before my trip home. So I asked the staff where some good hiking trails were. And what I really wanted was to find an old growth forest, because those big trees, there's just something about that that's so satisfying and rejuvenating. So I asked them about that. And not only did I get maps, I got where to park, why some places still have the big trees as opposed to other places. I got a book about forestry in Wisconsin with a section on old growth forests. And most of all, I felt cared for. It was soothing. It was a pathway to delight for me. And it was wonderful. Here we are at the Marshfield Jaquith Public Library in Vermont again, and this is Margie. Margie is 80 years old right now. She is an artist, But about 4 years ago, she didn't really see herself as an artist. And the director, Susan, said to her, "Hey, Margie, you're an artist. Do you want to do a show here?" And Margie felt really unsure. She was not really even sure she was an artist, but she did it anyway. Um, if you, I see that somebody's got their video on. If you've got your video on, make sure that you turn that off, okay? Anyway, so Margie had a lot of doubt, but she did it anyway. And what she discovered was this was really important to her. It validated a part of her that she had only recently discovered. And now Margie does shows across the state of Vermont. She's had the opportunity not only to show her work, but also to have a part of her validated. And it's very, very important to her. So Margie experienced a pathway to self-determination. Pathways to home. At the Clifton Community Library, it's in the Adirondack Park. It's in the town of Cranberry Lake, and there are businesses that are leaving. In the wintertime, it's pretty isolated. There is a major road that runs through Cranberry Lake. It runs through the top half of the Adirondack Park, but people find that there's nothing going on in the winter. There are no lights on at night during the winter, and that can be really disheartening. And one of the year-round residents described that isolation, but also described the hopeful feeling when they went by the library, because that is the only place in town during the winter that has the lights on in the winter. So bringing people in and allowing them to experience that sense of shared togetherness. Also happened in Missouri, Iowa. Chelsea is the director, and Missouri is a very, very tiny town. They've lost most of the businesses because there are no jobs or very few jobs. People have to move away to find work. And the experience of the people who stay is kind of this loss. They feel the loss of people moving away, their children, their friends. But Chelsea put together this carnival, and she tagged it on to the nighttime 4th of July fireworks. She has a petting zoo, bounce house, games, and it's an opportunity for people to come back to Missouri. Grown children can come back with their families. People who have left can come back, and they can all enjoy the togetherness, the sense of home for at least one day. And I think when we bring our humanity to our work, it becomes less about a transaction, this thing that I'm doing for you, and it becomes more of an interaction. We're building connection. We're sharing an experience of growing and learning together. And we're making our communities places that we want to live. It's more than providing a service to a patron. It's fellow human beings on a journey together. And I believe the heart of library service is just walking each other home. So thank you for listening, and I will take any questions that people have, if there are any.
Hi everyone, this is Kelly and I'm the moderator today. And if there is someone still who has their video on, If you go and hover on the screen at the very bottom, a bar will come up with the icons for Zoom. In the far left corner, there's a mute and then a start video or video, stop video. So please stop your video. We are going to take questions now. Also in the bar towards the middle, there's a chat icon. If you click on that, you're going to have a chat box come on, and you'll be able to ask your questions there. I am watching that, and I will, I'll have you, well, I'll try to unmute you. Unfortunately, we have so many, well, fortunately we have so many people, but it's also taking up a lot of bandwidth. So I've been having trouble scrolling up and down with the participants. So please type in your questions to chat, and I will pose those to Hope, and we'll try to answer your questions. So let me just check here. Okay, we have we have someone who's saying, "Hey there, Vermont." We'll be visiting there in August from the UK. Great.
Good choice.
And we have Shiham from Sri Lanka. Welcome.
Wow.
And the time there is now 1:44 a.m.
Wow.
Thank you for joining us. That's great. Okay, we have a question from Marion, and she says she was just at the keynote and was wondering how EDI might work with these rural library works.
Can you talk about what EDI is? I don't know what that is.
I don't either, and our chats.
Oh, I see. Equity,
Yes?
diversity, inclusion.
Okay, great.
Yeah. It's often can be challenging, but there are, I'm not really sure what you, did you want to know what we observed along those lines? In Marshfield, for instance, there was a hunger to be able to interact with people that were different, but not a whole lot of opportunity in a lot of rural communities, including Vermont, because they're pretty homogeneous.
We have we have Don, who's saying hello from Adelaide. That's in Australia. And then we have, wow, Mary Kay, welcome. She's joining us from Cairo. That's great.
Wow. I'm honored. So what are we looking for in the testers? I did see that pop up.
Yes. What are you looking for in beta testers for the Pioneer Library Consortium project?
Okay, it's actually, so I work for the Pioneer Library System, but this research project is separate from that. But we are, yeah, you can go to the link that Margot is posting and sign up. Margot, we're looking for people to do a self-assessment, if I'm correct. Do you want to say more about that, Margot?
The problem is that we've muted everyone and we can't turn that off.
Gotcha.
And because we have so many participants, I haven't been, my computer's working extremely slowly to scroll down. So Marco, just please type it in the chat. I can see that, and I'll give the question to Hope.
Okay. Actually, I've worked it out so I can see the chat. I see Tyler is asking about some examples of how we started developing the social well-being for younger library users. So, we are looking at this really broadly. And so we're really in the beginning stages of taking the information that we've found this summer and making resources. Um, I'll answer that personally. I think it's about being aware of what your community needs and just, this sounds trite, I'm sorry. I think it's taking a human look at a human need and responding in the best way possible. That probably not helpful. Okay, Margot's saying we'll send resource kits to the beta testers on April 1st.
Oh, excellent. That's great.
If Tyler, if you want to write a little bit more about what you're looking for. Okay, I'm reading Marian's. I was wondering how one can address EDI issues in rural settings. Okay, so in Vermont, for example, they had presentations about Black Lives Matter. They continually dive into issues that are challenging and thought-provoking, and they do it in a respectful way. The Marion, it's called the Jaquith Public Library, and if you want to look at how they're doing it, oh, here's Eli, he's giving a response. Eli is also a researcher on the project. Eli says, first, the libraries all provided key infrastructure for equitable access to jobs, training, etc. This is really important in rural areas when transportation is limited. Second, libraries all played key roles in social connection, helping to establish relationships that cross boundaries, creating shared identity that transcends race, economic status, etc. Any other questions that I've missed?
I want to mention we're talking about rural libraries, and in June we have another mini conference, and the subject is small and rural libraries, and that is on June 17th.
Mm.
Okay. Marion says, I work with asylum seekers who get sent all over, hence the question. Yes, thank you.
Mm.
And we have a question from Tyler. Can you see that?
Yeah, to follow up, Tyler says, as you develop your practices for promoting social well-being, what kind of age-appropriate resources, events, programs, etc., have you been looking at implementing? Will you have this available somewhere in the future? That's kind of beyond the scope of this research, but the director of the Missouri Public Library is actually the author of a book about rural library programming that's coming out, and she does a lot with children. Her name is Chelsea Price. I can't remember the title of her book, but it's an ALA published book, and she also writes for Programming Librarian. I also would like to put a plug in for the Association of Rural and Small Libraries, ARSL. They have a tremendous amount of networking opportunities through the listserv and through the conference, and I credit a lot of my growth and development as a librarian because of this organization and the help that they've given me.
Hope, I'm just going to interrupt. I'm sorry about that. I'm watching the time
Oh
and
yeah.
it's 1:28. So for anyone who's joining another presentation at 1:30, I urge you to follow that link now so that you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for spending this half hour with me. I appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you, Hope.
Okay, Kelly, what do I do?
We'll stop recording.
Okay. Maybe.